Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Permission to Leap, a podcast exploring the stories of people who have brought their visions to life. Every week, I speak with an inspiring guest and navigate the process they have taken in their own lives to leap from the day they first committed to the day they landed on the other side. Permission to Leap is the spark that will push you to believe in your dreams again and make them your reality. Today, I'm super excited to introduce you to Jenn Pike, holistic nutrition and lifestyle expert and best-selling author. She is also a mom of two and truly believes that well-being is a journey to be enjoyed, not a struggle to be forced. She inspires you to create more simplicity and ease in all that you do. Hi.
Hi. Thank you so much for having me today. I'm so excited.
I know, this is fun. We met at Archangel, I think in January, and then again in September, and I'm super, super pumped to one, chat and get to know you better, and two, share all your wisdom with everybody else.
Well, thank you. I'm excited to speak with you too. I love everything that you've been doing.
Good. Thanks. So tell us quickly, like what your thing is. What do you do? What, all that stuff.
Well, my thing now, because I have, as we were talking about earlier, I've pivoted and shifted many times. I've been in the holistic health industry for 21 years now, but my passion in the last 5 to 7 years has really been working with women and moms who feel overwhelmed, who feel overcomplicated, and get to that stage where they then feel paralyzed in making any choices and decisions to move them out of those places of overwhelm and complication. And so what I really do in my business is I educate women on principles of simplicity in their health, so their body physically, mentally, and emotionally, and teach them how they can start to create small shifts to create big magic, and really be able to not just feel better in their bodies, but show up better in who they are being in their career as a mom, as a spouse, as a woman, as a friend to yourself and to others. And so the Simplicity Project, the book that I wrote, was written for a very specific women and girls in mind, to teach you about your body, the things that we really should have been taught when we were a child about how to take care of our bodies that were just skimmed over. And this ended up turning into the Hormone Project, which is a 10-week online course and a series of workshops that I teach in person as well, that really delves deep into the endocrine system and how magical our hormones are, these chemical messengers, and how we can really get them to be working in unison and for us and with us, as opposed to feeling like they are so out of balance and out of whack and really pulling us further away from how we want to feel and the way that we want to show up. So that is what I am really invested in and love with right now.
Cool. So there's two things you said in there that I want to dive a little deeper in. The first thing is this idea of small shifts. And I love this conversation because I live by the 1% rule. Like, yes, we take leaps, and yes, they can be grand and they can be monumentous and quick and big and all these things. And a lot of the sustainable lasting change happens by just shifting like 1%. 1% of your thoughts today, 1% of your actions today, 1% of your energy field, all that stuff. So talk a little bit more about the benefits you've seen from taking like the small incremental shifts.
Well, you start to realize that it's way more manageable and way more loving ask of yourself when you're just simply trying to change one thing. And I used to do the opposite. I used to take this approach with clients as well, way back when I was personal training and first started out doing nutrition consulting. Is, you would just like barf inspiration all over people. You got to do this and this and this in order to be able to feel this way and this way and this way. And the reality is that none of us have the ability in our lives, especially if you have a job or you have children or, you like to do anything other than just take care of yourself, to be able to do a lot of what we were putting out there as this pretense of how it had to happen. And it was very linear and very dogmatic and overwhelming. And when I started to feel this, not just hear myself saying it and think, this is crazy what I'm asking people to do, but I started to feel like I can't even do this. And I live and practice this every day. So how is this feeling for other people? When I started to just focus on one thing, which, say for me, it was getting more rest. Well, getting more rest, that one change, gave me more energy, gave me a better sense of being calmly connected to my body, allowed me time to just download and process whatever had happened in the day. And when I started to apply this with my clients, at first they were like, what's the catch? What do you mean you're just asking me to do one thing? How am I possibly going to reach my goals if I'm only doing one thing? And the analogy that I will often give to people is like, look, this is really at the end of the day, our life, whether we're talking about it as a, in a business perspective, as an entrepreneur, from our health, our relationships, whatever it may be. We're trying to actually create new habits. That's really what we're talking about, is habits that lead us to a certain feeling or sensation of success in whatever our goal or our intention is. And a habit is something that you actually don't have to remind yourself to do. You don't have to create a list around your habit. You don't have to set an alarm to remind yourself about a habit. If I were to say to you, Bree, you can't brush your teeth for the next 4 days, you would be like, instantly, like your tongue would run across your teeth. You would envision and feel that sweater. You would think of like all the reasons why there's no way, like I can't not brush my teeth. Well, the reason outside of feeling the sweater on your teeth and that gross sensation is it's a habit now. Like you've been trained and programmed 2 times a day, you do this thing. You don't have to remind yourself to do it. You don't have to think about it. You don't have to write it next to your bed to remind yourself when you wake up, go brush your teeth. This is part of who you are and what you do. So if we can take that same approach to drinking water, if you can start to have water around you everywhere, and that's just your one thing that you focus on now, it's your 2 millimeter shift is hydrate. Within a couple of days, you won't even have to remind yourself to do it because your body is going to tell you, I am thirsty, I feel tired, I'm sluggish, you need to go and get me more of that water. You respond, you reaffirm that habit. This now becomes part of who you are and what you do. And now you're ready for the next level and layer. And we can look at all the aspects of our life like that.
I love it. I'm huge into habit creation. In fact, the last chapter of Permission to Leap goes like hard into habit creation because, and I know I mentioned this in a previous episode, we all have habits right now, right? But they're habits that were built, say, when we were kids, or they're habits that we picked up from other people. And the thing that happens is we think that, oh, well, this is how it is. This is who I am. This is how I operate. And so this is how it is. But in actuality, those are just habits that we picked up that may not even be ours, right? Like they might be our parents or someone else's or any of these things. And now we get the opportunity as adults to kind of step back and witness like, oh shit, I'm doing this thing and it's a habit that doesn't serve me. Like not drinking enough water. That was a huge thing for me. And now, of course, I drink 2 liters a day, but that was a habit that I had to cultivate because I looked back on like, that habit isn't serving me. I never got into that habit when I was growing up. And now I get the opportunity to create that because that's what's going to support me in being the best version of myself every day.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And it's recognizing that when we can start to make those, changes, those small changes around the one thing, that there is the ripple that leads into something else. We always think that when we are trying to create new change in our life, whatever it may be in whatever arena of your life, that it has to be hard. It's got to be arduous or it doesn't count. If it's not like big enough, then what's the point? And that is also part of our habitual conditioning, is that we always see the really big things being celebrated, the awards, the most famous, the most successful. Meanwhile, there are really incredible success stories that are happening in every moment of every day, but they're not illuminated in the same way. So then we tell ourselves, well, why am I going to celebrate that little thing if nobody else out there is doing it?
Yeah. I love that. So right before we got on the call, you and I talked about kind of a habit that is pretty prevalent with a lot of women entrepreneurs. And honestly, I would say just high achieving women in general have this habit. And that, we've entered into this new era where we've been focused on this like hyper masculine way of being, right? The pushing, the doing, the hustling, the this is and the that's, and the really, really pushing ourselves to the point of exhaustion and burning out, right? And then we have the other end of the scale which is this hyper feminine state where we're just like, we get to the super, super heavy burnout and then we swing the pendulum all the way over to the other side and we're like, I can't. And so this is a habit that, you know, we were speaking about, both of us have experienced it, and our clients and just women in general, is this oscillation between the hypermasculine and the hyperfeminine, and that we're coming into a point where we are now getting to define this new habit that isn't this oscillation. Tell me more a little bit. I mean, you know, we talked about this earlier, but.
Well, I think it's like you said, so many of us come out into the scene of starting a business, being an entrepreneur, and you are like fed the message and the story that, you know, you've got to like hustle, you have to like bust your ass. You know, there's like, you can sleep when you're dead. There's like no time for that right now. Like, you've just got to, like, if you're committed to this dream and this is your passion, you do what you have to do and you push through. At least for me, that was a lot of the kind of core messaging that was around me, is like, draw the line in the sand, stand up, you know, pull up your big girl panties and get the work done. And so I was like, okay. And I would do that, and I would go full tilt, and I would say yes to everything and everyone. And I would just go, go, go. And I felt guilty about taking a break or lying down or taking a day off or going to bed too early, because in my head, I was like, no, there's still more to be done. I can rest later once I get this next thing done. And I could sustain this for in the beginning, like before I had kids, I could sustain it for a longer period of time because I didn't have little people who needed me. And then I would crash. And so I would crash for a couple days, not even by choice, but just because I couldn't do it any longer. But then I would feel better and I'd be like, all right, dust it off, get up and go right back into that intensity. Becoming a mom, for me, that was the exact timing and very thing that needed to happen in order for me to be able to really reflect how tired I was and just how hard I was pushing, and to allow me to actually tap into that feminine side, you know, which you do being a mom because you're caregiving, but even that can end up being masculine because you take on this role of doing everything and being everything for everyone. So then I would start to get to the place, especially when I was running my business in person, when I owned a physical space, where I would still go hardcore, but then I would swing over, like you said, to the feminine, and I would just say no, and I'm just going to trust and put it out there. But then nothing was happening. And then I would panic over there and I would jump back into full swing. And so it has been years. And I mean, I will be honest, I still am in between those two places because it depends on what else is happening and going on. There are maybe a couple days in a week where I'm like, I got this. Like, I feel really good, but then something will show up. Something will be asked of me. Something has to shift and change. And now I'm in that place where it's kind of like, who and where do I want to be today? Do I want to be the really like hard ass hustle? The languaging is important too. Or do I want to be like more gentle and loving and compassionate with myself? And what I've learned over these years is every single time now, when I can give myself permission to pull back and to have equal amounts of trust in myself and my abilities and what I'm doing, and know that there are actually no urgent emergencies that exist other than if something happens with my children, my husband, or my family, that everything is going to be okay. And what ends up happening on the other side is I'm a way calmer person. I'm actually way more productive when I do show up to do the work, and I just feel better overall.
Yeah. Yeah. I love, like, we are some of the leaders on the forefront of this, right? Because this has never been modeled to us. I mean, even as you know, of course, the whole masculine hierarchical system, business, corporations, blah, blah, blah. And then women were thrown into that, and we were expected to play the same game. Mm-hmm. And, you know, for me, I know you said one thing that I firmly believe in is that whatever it takes. That was something that was gifted to me for my entrepreneurial journey several years ago. And I took it on and I was like, awesome, whatever it takes. Mm-hmm. And I got into the same thing too, where I was like doing anything and everything it took to like get this thing off the ground. Right. And I've somehow found a little bit of a balance, although I still have some work left to do here, of holding on to that, whatever it takes, but having a more focused and directed approach to that. Mm-hmm. Because I can do whatever it takes in 6 hours a day and like still get 8 hours of sleep
Yes.
and still get my movement practice in and
Mm-hmm.
still drink my water and still have my health and like still play with the kitties and get some cuddle time on the couch and, you know, like, so it's just, I think really finding that middle ground. And, you know, as you found with the, I forget exactly what word you used, but like the adrenal system stuff, like this whole, you
like fatigue and shut down and
yeah. You mentioned there was an A word that you used at the very beginning. That's where I got onto this thing. Fuck. I can't remember. This is why I take notes usually during podcasts. Cause I like,
it'll come to us.
I know, but you work a lot with women and hormones and like this overwhelm and this burnout and like that kind of stuff, because it becomes this mindset becomes a physicality for us at some point.
Oh my gosh. Well, listen, physical manifestations don't stem from a physical standpoint. There has to be an impetus. There's a
catalyst.
What? Yeah. So whether it is, you know, here's what I really teach about is I teach about nourishment on the full spectrum. And that is what you are eating, what you're drinking, but who you're spending time with, what you are thinking, what you are reading, what you listen to, what you let your eyes and your soul peer into. All of that is part of your nourishment. And that takes a toll on us. We can only deflect or pack it away for so long before the body physically will manifest some level of a message. Symptoms are messages and messengers. They really are there to get your attention when you otherwise aren't paying attention. And so when you are in pain and discomfort, something feels out of balance, you're no longer feeling the way that you normally would, you don't recognize yourself anymore, your behaviors have started to change, you are going to notice that. People in your life are going to notice that. And it is designed that way on purpose, our bodies. They are brilliant at being able to spin it around and mirror for us what we really need to focus on. And when you get to a place, or hopefully, you know, if you get to that place where you can create the power of a pause long enough to just like listen and be like, okay, what do I really need to do here? What are you really trying to show me? Oftentimes what it is that people will think it's something like a nutrient deficiency, a supplement deficiency. And sometimes it is, but again, those are just symptoms. More often than not, it is a conflict of interest showing up on your calendar and your schedule and the things that you're committing yourself to. And, you know, as you were saying, like, this is the first time in history that as women, we are sitting in this position where we get to rewrite the rules. We get to actually, like, there are no rules. We get to create and collaborate and support and come together and get rid of the cattiness and the judgment and the shame and all of that. And all of that is so beautiful and it's out there and it's happening. But then there is the antithesis of this, where not only is still some of the old school messaging there, but then what we do to ourselves is we start to look into what someone else is doing, how they are doing it. We start to panic and feel like we're not where we think we should be, because look at that woman, that female entrepreneur that's doing what she's doing. Look at her following. Look at
her perfect Instagram feed.
Right.
She must not have any problems or any health issues.
No.
She gets all of her water every day.
Yeah. So, you know, instead of like, don't sleep, you know, hustle, we end up having a bath in moon water and pouring crystals all over our body and trying to like get to that place where we can just like accept and be, and then hopefully then create what these other women that we are looking at are doing and being. And so we're getting closer, but we still, and I actually think it's fun. I think it's a really fun time to be a female entrepreneur. I feel and see more support now than I ever have, and I love it.
Yeah, I've been saying for a while, and I've had a few articles come out about this, is that like, as women, we are not going to truly thrive in the game, quote unquote, the game that's currently being played, right? So we keep entering into this game saying like, all right, I'm going to change the rules. I'm going to change the rules. I'm going to change the rules. What if we just walked away and said, fuck that game. I'm going to make my own game, and we're going to make the rules up.
Yep. As we go.
And that I think is what's happening right now, which is so, so cool. It's scary because a lot of the women I deal with, like, it's going from that, like, well, someone else will take care of it, to that, like, fuck, now I have to take care of it.
And I have to learn it.
Yeah.
And I have to, it's a whole new ball game. I mean, I always say to people, I don't know that there is anything that I've done and I was really ready to do it. Do you know what I mean? Like, if I waited till I was ready, I would have come up with 10 other excuses and reasons why I shouldn't do it. So it has always felt for me like there is someone's hand behind my back that I can't see, but I can feel, who literally just, when I'm like, they push me, and I just leap and learn, and I fail and fall forward. And that's always, like I say to people, this is your research and development. This is your MBA. You got to get in it. Like, you got to allow yourself to get dirty and to be wrong and to experience all the feels as you're going through it, in order to really learn what is going to work for you. And even more so, like, what feels really good for you, because someone else's system or, shift that they've created in their business, whatever it may be, it's working really well for them because it's working well for them. Yeah. But if you try to pull that on for size and something just isn't there, it's not you that is the issue. It's that the system you're trying to slip into doesn't serve you.
Yeah. I did that last year. I had been using virtual assistants for a while, and it just, like, I would cycle through one after another, after another, after another. And I was like, God, what is going on? Like, why can't I get a good virtual assistant? And, like, this isn't working for me, and blah, blah, blah. And then I had the realization of, like, it wasn't any of them. It was me. Like, having a virtual assistant doesn't work for me. I need someone that's, like, in my home next to me in the trenches 3 to 4 days a week.
Yeah.
And the second I gave myself permission to do that and just be like, oh, I'm not going to have a virtual assistant. And yeah, I get that you can get a virtual assistant in the Philippines for like $10 a day, but, like, I'm going to invest in another woman's growth, and I'm going to get myself an assistant. And, like, this is what works for me, and I'm going to own this. And it's been a game changer.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. And all of this just keeps coming back to this whole thing of, it's the permission piece. It is acknowledging what is serving you and what isn't, and then being okay with that, and, like, cutting that cord, and then moving on to discover the thing that actually does help and serve you. For me, it was, for so many years, I was like, I got this. I got it all by myself. I don't need help. I will do it all by myself. I'm creating these things, therefore it's my responsibility in order to see them through. And I was trying to, like, when I first started doing online stuff and I'm trying to do the back end, I had no idea what I was doing. And now I have an assistant that's been with me for almost 3 years. And honest to God, when I do my gratitude journal, she's on that page every night, because I am so grateful for her skills and her expertise. And it's so amazing to be able to actually pay someone and help them build their business doing what they do, like being in their zone of genius.
Yeah.
So it's good. It all goes around.
Yeah. So as an invitation for any of our listeners, starting to gain awareness and witnessing the pattern that you're going through with this hypermasculine and hyperfeminine, and really starting to, bring in habits and embody this idea of there's another way. Mm-hmm. And, we are the women that get to be on the forefront of this. We get to show other women how it's done. And I know you work with moms. I always say, I'm very clearly like a staunch, like, child-free, like, that's me. But I love working with moms, because as the women that are on the leading edge of this, we get to teach them, who will then teach their daughters. Like, we are the ones, guys, I can't even tell you how important this is right now. I'm having a moment. Like, us changing this is not just changing it for us. Like, us taking this step to make this pivot from this hyper masculine, hyper feminine pendulum swing into this place of wholeness is literally going to change the world. Like, it is going to change all of our children and our children's children and everyone from here on out.
100%. And I have a daughter and a son, and they are 9 and 11. And these are, you can say, excuse me, you can say anything you want to your kids, but what your kids really take on and learn is what you show them. And, I don't always get it right as a parent with my kids. There are some times where I'm working too much, and I ask them to call me out on that. And there are some times where I need to put a little bit more effort into my business in order to create something that I'm doing. But I am so open and honest with those two children about my why and my passion, and they are part of everything. So I don't try and segregate it so that it's, okay, for these hours, I'm just mom, and in these hours, they're part of my whole world and my whole life. And they are at my events. They help me, prepare my materials. We are in our family, we're trying to really create this message of you're part of a community. And I want my son to see that a woman's role, a mother's role, is not just defined by her having children and then she's only a mom. And if she chooses to stay at home and be a mom, that is actually the most incredible and difficult job that is out there. But that if she chooses to be a loving mom to her kids and then also have a career and do those things too, that is also allowed. I want my daughter to see that you can actually create and do anything you want in life, and there are so many possibilities. And it's interesting because she just had a group of her girlfriends over for a holiday sleepover on the weekend. And these little girls, I'm telling you, they get it. They know they are a different. When I think back to when I was younger and having sleepovers with my girlfriends and what we were talking about and the things that we were watching, and now I'm looking at my daughters, like they're all in grade 6 at their age span. I'm like cheering them on because they are getting it. They're understanding and getting the vibe. There's also a difference in knowing how it's okay to be treated by boys. And that, so it's amazing. They're such little sponges. It's so incredible.
Well, and I've started doing for myself hypnotherapy, and it's amazing, like what I've gone back and what I've stored and remember from like even being in utero. Yeah. Or like I had a session recently where I was like being held in my mom's arms in the hospital, right? Like, so we do pick up on all the energies around us all the time from the second that we are conceptualized, basically.
I think even before so. I mean, I really firmly believe our children choose us. I really do. And I have done a lot of that similar kind of work, and everyone that you talk to, I'm going to talk in the business sphere, who's been really successful in that and who has overcome certain obstacles, given themselves permission to pivot and change what they're doing, permission to leap. They've all gone through a period of time where they've had to go back. They've had to go back and really peel the layers away and acknowledge some old wounds, some stories that aren't theirs that they've been holding on to and have been carrying around. And almost all of it, the most pivotal work that we do is actually what has happened in the nonverbal years. So in utero, ages 2 and under, and most definitely almost all of our ways of thinking and how our neural feedback loop is created in our mind is established by the time we're 7.
Yeah.
I remember when I first heard that, like my oldest was past 7 and I was like, oh God,
shit, we're behind.
Shit, I'm already, we got to catch up. But then you realize that's that's not how it is. But, and again, all of it, we're so fascinating. There's no expiry date. Like there actually is no hurry up. There is no, it has to happen right now. It's this process of how we're evolving as humans and connecting and collaborating, and even like podcasts, what we're doing right now. There was a time where people kept all of their jewels to themselves and coveted. They would never share. And there are still some people like that, but more and more people want to talk about the honesty of what it is to get to where they've gotten to support one another, to collaborate. And it's amazing.
Yeah. I love it. Thank you for being on here. Oh, and I wanted to say too, I remembered you brought your kids to Archangel, right? Like they were sitting in the front row with you, weren't they?
Not at this year's summit.
No. There were kids sitting up front with you. My
girlfriend Laura, her older boys, they were sitting in the front with us. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. They'll come. My daughter will come to next year's. Bit of a long day for the age that they are right now.
I guess.
Yeah. But they're part of all of it.
I think that's so cool. And going back to what you said about the holistic thing, like I feel like there's this mindset or this perception that holistic is just like, eating green and being vegan and, raw and organic and like all these things. And I love that you brought in the holistic definition of like, you know, it's not just what you eat, it's who you're being, it's how you're raising your children, it's how you are in your business, like all these things. And the more that we can start to look at our lives like that, and like you said, not box off different areas, I think the better we're going to be able to be as women, not only for ourselves, for, you know, if you have clients, for your job, for the world in general. So
yeah, absolutely. That is the definite. Holistic is whole person, whole life, whole body. It's all of it. I'll share one last little piece here. I taught on Monday this new program that I'm just offering up called the Self-Love Project to small groups of women in my home. And one of the women there, she had this really great example that I'd never heard before, and I just loved it. And she said, you know, instead of me thinking that I have to be this person here and this person there and defining that to other people so that they can understand what I do, she's like, I just refer to myself as a mosaic. I am just this like, you know, meshed, beautiful piece of art and work. And there's lots of different dimensions to me. And I was like, wow, because you can visualize that, right? Everybody can see that mosaic piece of work. And I think that's who we all are, right? It's a really beautiful blend.
Yeah. I realized that the times when I was like basically like shutting on and off a light switch, and I was going on and off and on and off and on and off and all these things. And it's fucking exhausting. And the more that we can honor the totality of who we are in every moment, right?
Yes.
Like as I'm having this conversation with you, I'm a business owner, I'm a woman, I'm a daughter, I'm a sister, I'm a leader. I'm also going through my own death cycle right now. Like, you know, like there's so much to each of us. And the more that we can honor all of that in every moment, the better we're going to be able to be as women in the world.
Absolutely. Well, how lucky are all of we that you are doing a podcast like this where we get to express it.
This was such a good interview, Jen. Thank you.
Oh, thank you so much for having me.
This was totally not what we had planned to talk about pretty much at all.
No.
And it like just happened that we got talking about it before we hit record. And like, this was so, so, so beautiful. So thank you.
Thank you.
And thanks to all of our guests for joining us for another episode of Permission to Leap. As always, if you're looking to take your next big leap, you can go pick up my book, Permission to Leap, on Amazon. It will guide you through the leap process because there needs to be more people like you living an inspired life in the world. Ladies, please, please, please figure out a way to say yes to your leap. The world needs you. I love you all madly. I will catch you on a next episode. Have a great week and much love.